We are live. Hey guys, how we doing? Welcome to Believers Talk. We'll get into it in a little bit. Thursday night, 9:30, go live every single week. Had to miss last week. Unfortunately, some things came up. Couldn't be live with you guys. I missed y'all. I missed y'all last week. In fact, missed y'all so much I came on here on Tuesday, went live, talked a little bit about Cam Newton. We can definitely do a little more Cam Newton talk today in this live stream as well. But let's get this started the right way. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Believers Talk. My name is Joe, and welcome to this live edition of Believers Talk. We're going to break things down again. I hope you guys are joining me. If you're new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button for continual Buffalo Bills news. And while you're here, hit that thumbs up button, like this video. Let people know we're out there. We're live. We're taking your questions. Join the conversation as we talk about our Buffalo Bills. Evil Crazy, Juan Castillo, Comrade Recruit, all in the house. Glad that you guys are here joining me. And again, you guys know how these live streams work. These live streams only work because you guys get involved. So get involved. Sure, there's some topics that I want to talk about. You know, we've heard a lot of news around New Era Field. We've heard a lot of news surrounding the recent pandemic and the effects that might have on the NFL. So we'll talk about all that. Of course, we'll talk about that, but we need to talk about some of the good news too, right? We need to talk about why the Buffalo Bills should still be favorites to win the AFC East in our minds. No fans isn't all that bad. Be weird hearing more of the trash talk between players. Karen, I do like the idea of listening more to what the players are saying, to what's going on the field. I really do. And in fact, when it first started, right, go back to UFC. UFC first came back. They were the first sport to come back. And what did they say? No fans. My first reaction was, ooh, you're going to hear those hits, right? And it's the same thing in the NFL. You're going to hear those hits. They're going to sound a whole lot worse than they actually are. Now, I wonder how this will affect the officiating during a game, right? And the reason why I say that is you can't tell me that there have been no officials ever to throw a flag based on a crowd reaction, right? Whether it be to save them or to their detriment, you hear a crowd reaction, you throw a flag thinking, hey, either I missed something or maybe there was something there that I didn't see. So you threw that flag. So it's going to be interesting to me to see if this does and how it does, if it does, affects the officiating during a game. Maybe a little bit less of a diva type mentality from your outside wide receivers, because who you're being a diva for, right? You try to pump up the crowd, there's no crowd there. So it's going to change things. But the fact that there are no fans in the stands also makes you not really care too much about missing 2 preseason games. We're going to talk about the preseason and what missing 2 preseason games means. Who does it help on the roster? Who does it hurt when it comes to trying to get a roster spot? We'll talk about that. But for the owners, one of the main reasons why they've always wanted to stick with 4 preseason games is because of the dollars, right? Because of the dollars. Let's be honest, to the NFL owners, to billionaires, safety means nothing compared to their wallets. Okay, whatever they tell you, if safety mattered, we would have been down to 2 preseason games years ago. Okay, that does not matter to them as much as the money in their pockets. So we're going to see what happens. Yvonne comes in here. What up? How you doing? Good to see you. But from San Diego. Hopefully the weather's nicer there than it is here. Hopefully you're being safe with the pandemic going on. Comrade comes in. How do I feel about pumped in crowd noise? Not a fan. I'm not a fan of pumped in crowd noise. And let's talk more about the fans for a little bit. So we heard the NFL came out earlier this week and said that they might have fans sign waivers before they could go to an NFL game. You know, we had people like Dan Mitchell who said, hey, he'll sign 50 waivers before he has to go, if that's what he has to do to go to a Buffalo Bills game. And then you heard Cuomo, however you say the governor's name, up there in Buffalo, up there in New York, I should say that no Bills fans will be allowed in the stadium. No Bills fans will be allowed to tailgate during the pandemic. So that's kind of a blow, right? And the reason why that's a blow, not necessarily because, like Karen said, there are going to be no fans in the stands. It's the fact that we might be the only team with no fans in the stands. Kevin said, yeah, I'm not a fan of pumping crowd noise. But think about this, okay? We might be the only team without fans in the stands. No other state has come out and said, oh, fans will not be allowed to enter football stadiums when and if the football season starts. So right now, it looks like the Buffalo Bills Because even the two New York teams that don't play in New York, they play in New Jersey, there hasn't been a ruling on them either. So what if the Bills are the only team that doesn't allow fans in the stadium? That's a huge detriment. That's a huge disadvantage to the Buffalo Bills. Now, we could sit here and joke and hope that Bills Mafia, which normally travels well, will travel well to their 8 other games. I'm sure that we will, but we will still be outnumbered by the home team, because even if they allow fans in the stands, you have to believe that they're not going to allow 100% capacity in these stadiums, at least not for the first part of the season. Rob, thank you for joining me. Thank you very much. And again, guys, if you're new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And thank you guys for joining me as we talk about some of the bad news surrounding New Era Field right now, some of the bad news surrounding the NFL. I mean, it's inevitable, right? It's inevitable. We talked a little bit about the NFL canceling Hall of Fame weekend. And I'm not so much upset about the game, although I always love seeing a Pittsburgh Cowboys game, right? Pittsburgh-Dallas, always a good game, always playing on a big stage. And, the Hall of Fame game might be the biggest of the preseason games out there, even though that your starters play for 10 seconds. But still, it would have been fun to be able to celebrate the Hall of Famers going into the Hall of Fame, right? You talk about Bill Cowher, talk about Jimmy Johnson, you talk about some of the NFL greats, whether we liked them or not, right? We have some bad memories from Jimmy Johnson. We have some bad taste in our mouth from Jimmy Johnson giving us a whooping in the Super Bowl, but they are still some of the NFL greats, and we have to appreciate that. And to know that at least right now we're not going to be able to is kind of sad, because you always want to pay homage to the past, and that's what I do every Friday night. So if you haven't been joining me on Fridays, I do a Hall of Fame series where we take a look at all of the Buffalo Bills Hall of Famers. One comes in, when they pump in the crowd noise, they'll just turn up absurdly loud. Well, I've heard a bunch of different things. I've actually heard that the stadiums will pump in crowd noise. I've heard that the cable provider like Fox or CBS will pump up crowd noise. So then the crowd noise isn't heard on the field, it's only heard through the television. Either way, I'm not a fan of it. I would rather hear the bone-crunching hits. I would rather hear the talking back and forth. However, in saying that, those censorships better be ready to go if you're going to let the players talk. If you're going to have those microphones still on the referees that they have and be able to hear what the players have to say, those people who censor everything on the channels need to be ready to go. We saw with the XFL, they brought that back. They wanted to have sideline interviews. Well, that worked out well and good until they did a sideline interview with a player who just wasn't happy with what just happened, and he kind of went on a little bit of a rant. The censor button wasn't quite ready, and they didn't catch it, and there it went over the airwaves, and all of a sudden you have some problems with the NFL and the channel that they're coming in at, and then all of a sudden some TV provider gets involved, and it just becomes a big mess. Big mess. You don't want that. You don't want that. So if they're not going to pump up crowd noise, then they really need to be careful of that. Just putting cowboy crowds seats of fans. So go back to like Madden 2003 when you had like these fans that were just two-dimensional, and you were like, hey, they're not really fans. They do like the same 3 cheers throughout the whole game. Hey. So yeah, we'll do that. Let's do that. Let's have a good time with that. I'm sure someone knows how to get that job done. But no, I honestly just would rather hear the hits, the play calling, the substitutions at the line. That's what I love to hear. That's what I love to break down. So be able to hear that would be kind of fun for me. I hope it'll be fun for you. When you get the crowd noise pumped in, you're not sure what you're going to hear, and that, I am not a big fan of the unknowns, right? And like someone just said, they're just gonna pump it up too loud, and now all of a sudden you're not gonna be able to hear things that you really do actually want to hear. So my biggest concern with no fans is not necessarily the fact that there are no fans, is the idea that the Buffalo Bills will have no fans in the stands while other teams do. When states were beginning to allow teams to meet, you heard Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers talk to the NFL about how it wasn't fair to have other teams meet because their states allowed it, and not have teams like the Steelers or the Bills meet because their states haven't opened up like that. And so you saw the NFL put up restrictions still. So we still had virtual OTAs, even in the states that were allowing NFL football teams to come back into the facility. The NFL still shut that down and said, no, we're not going to allow that, just because every team doesn't have the same advantage. I would not be surprised if we saw that happen here, right? If you saw that the Buffalo Bills and some other states were like, we really can't allow fans in the stadium, I would not be surprised if the NFL then said, well, if some teams can't allow fans in the stadiums, then no teams can allow fans in the stadiums. Just from an owner standpoint, from a team standpoint, it would all make things more fair across the board if they did things that way. So the NFL really has an interesting decision to make now, right? Because I don't think New York is going to be the only team to come out and say, hey, as long as the pandemic's going on, we're not going to allow fans in the stands. There are going to be other states that follow suit. And when that happens, the NFL is going to have an important decision to make. Do we want to allow fans in the states where they'll allow it? Or since some states won't allow it, do we just want to say no across the board, enjoy watching your team on TV, and we hope that everything works out well for a season to start? Because guys, these bubbles that we're beginning to see haven't gotten off to the greatest start. We talk about the NBA bubble coming out today, right? NBA players starting to go into the bubble now. They did pretty good, right? I think they tested over 300 people, 300 players and coaches, and only 9 tested positive for the coronavirus. However, Major League Soccer tried to do the same thing recently, tried to start their bubble process just over this past week, and it didn't turn out so hot. It did not turn out so hot for them. Their percentages are a lot higher. So again, I tell you guys, if you're a fan only of the NFL, you still have to be watching these numbers. You still have to be watching what happens in the NBA when these people get tested, when the bubble structure starts. Because the NFL isn't talking about bubble, guys. The NFL is talking about going from state to state to state to state to state. And I don't know about other states, but in our state, we just got a restriction today saying, hey, if you have visited one of, I think it's like 12 states, we ask that you have a 14-day self-quarantine. Now, some people are going to listen to that. Obviously, some people are not going to listen to that just because it's a recommendation. But that's all political. I'm not getting into that. But still, these restrictions are going to keep happening, right? It's not like everything's going to be lifted all at once. Castillo says that would be way too much money lost. To work a deal so that so the states that allow fans will share the money earned. But again, are you going to share the money earned across all 32 teams, or just share the money earned between the teams that allow fans in? Like, how is that fair to? Let's say you're a Cleveland Brown owner, and Ohio is allowing fans in the stands, and Buffalo isn't. Is it fair to Cleveland to say, oh, I know that you allowed 50% capacity, but now you have to give some of that, even though you spent the money to make sure that, Buffalo didn't have to pay for people to have concession stands. And that's another great question. Now that I bring that up, what are they going to do about concession stands? Are they not going to have concessions? Because you kind of have to have concessions. Are you going to have someone who has COVID touching your food? How are they going to do that? Are they going to test every single person? So does that money all come out of the same prize pool, of the same pool of money, and then whatever's left over gets divided equally? There are a lot of questions. How I must wear a mask and a Speedo in public at all times. Jack, I'm sure you're loving that. I'm glad that I'm not there to see that. One of the few times I'm happy I'm not in Hawaii is when Jack Patrick talks about his Speedo. That's one of the few times. But Jack, I'm glad you're joining me. I feel like I haven't seen you in a little bit, so I'm glad that you're there. Hopefully you're staying safe and staying away from everything that could be potentially a bad thing. Hopefully you guys are doing good. All 32 teams, says Juan Castillo. But again, I just brought up concession stands, parking. Who's going to be taking care of parking? Now, for the most part, with parking, you don't have to be so close. But at the same time, you still have workers that have to come in and help you park, right? That's just the truth of it. Take your payment. Who's going to be touching your money? We all know that money carries some of the most germs. Now, does this virus stay on surfaces? There are mixed reports on both sides. Again, I'm not getting into it. I'm not a doctor. I have no idea. But at the same time, who's going to be doing that? And are they going to be taking the right precautions? And then where does the money to pay them come from? I mean, if you allow 25% of the stadiums to be full, depending on how many stadiums are allowed fans, you still might be losing money. You still might be losing money. And if it becomes if there's a difference between 25% of the stands and losing money and no fans and not making money, they're going to go with the no fans not making money. There are a lot of questions that need to be answered, and unfortunately, like I said, I don't have any of them, and they're tough questions. They're tough questions. We can't just ignore them. Are you not going to have concessions? Are you only going to have bottles of water for the fans? What are you going to do about that? Are you not going to have any food, just beverages? Like, there's a lot that goes into this. Are you going to have the fan zone opened, right, where they sell the memorabilia? Probably not, right? You're probably not going to be selling any memorabilia at the games. But do you want to do that? That's a moneymaker, right? These are all questions you have to ask before you're ready to go. And I think there's going to be some issues. Good to see you too, Jack. Glad that you're in here. And again, I hope that you are staying safe. I hope you're all staying safe, guys. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like this video. Unfortunately, there won't be a season this year, says iChuck. I don't want to speak negatively. I don't want to speak negative things into existence. But that's not off the table. That's not off the table. I feel more optimistic that there's going to be an NFL season than let's say, college football. Or even, for many of you, you know I'm a high school official. We actually just received our high school schedule. And I'm just looking at it, and I'm like, I just don't see it, right? If you don't have college football, how can you tell me that there's going to be a high school football season? I just don't see that happening. I just think that there's too many obstacles in the way in the collegiate and high school level. When it comes to the NFL, you're talking more about money, you're talking about more about careers, and you're talking about more about just owners who again, as I said, it's not just NFL players. And here's what we're going to find out. Over the past 6-7 seasons, the NFL has said, hey, these concussions, man, they're bad. They're bad. We really need to do something about these concussions. Maybe we should take down 4 preseason games to 2. And NFL owners have said, no, we want that preseason money. When was the last time a preseason ticket didn't cost as much or the same as a regular season ticket? Face value of a preseason ticket is the exact same as a regular season game. That's mind-boggling. That's ridiculous. But yet the owners want to make that money. And it's not just when it comes to the NFL players. It's going to talk about when it comes to mine and your safety as well. Billionaires want to be billionaires. That's all they want to do. I mean, we're talking about a guy in Washington who doesn't want to change a team name because he's a billionaire and no one can tell him what to do. That's what it boils down to. I mean, that's what billionaires do. What did I miss? No tailgates. Piano, good to see you in here. No fan season in my opinion, but there will be a season, says Scott. Scott, good to see you in here as well. That's where I'm going with this too. I think there will be a football season. I think there's going to be football on the field. I think that I'm going to be bringing you live streams of games right here on Billievers Talk, so you want to make sure you subscribe, hit that like button if you haven't already. Also, hit that notification bell. YouTube will notify you when I put out new content. I believe that there will be a football season. I believe that the Bills are still going with the AFC East. But I do also believe, like Scott said, there are not going to be fans in the stands, especially not the first half of the season. What I was thinking, and what I thought would be pretty neat, and if it could happen, I would really appreciate it, the Washington football team. I said the team in Washington. I didn't say the Washington football team. You said that first, Jack. There'll be a COVID IR. You're probably right. I chuckle when I hear that, but you're probably right. There's probably going to be different rules if you have COVID compared to if you don't have COVID, or if you get injured from a torn ACL or something like that. There's probably going to be a separate IR just for you, because you can't put someone on a 5-week IR who has COVID, because after 2 weeks, hey, they can possibly come back. So it's going to be very interesting. But let's talk about the preseason. Okay, we now know that the NFL has cut the preseason down from 4 games to 2 games, right? So let's talk about, for the Buffalo Bills, who does that help the most and who does that hurt the most when it comes to making a 55-man roster? That's still going to be weird to say. So here's my thinking, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. Now that we have 2 preseason games, I expect there to be a game where none of the starters, at least none of the premier starters, are even on an active roster. So that first preseason game, I don't expect to have Josh Allen on the roster. I don't expect to have anybody on the roster. I really don't. They'll all be at home, right? They'll all be at home because I also think not only will there be a COVID IR, like Scott Blakely said, I also believe that there might be some sort of rules to have some expansion in the preseason when it comes to players. When it just comes to overall players. Because you don't want Tom Brady on a field where your third string long snapper might have COVID-19, right? You don't want, for the Buffalo Bills, Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, John Brown, Josh Allen, Tre'Davious White, Tremaine Edmonds. These are guys, anyone on our starting offensive line, these are guys you don't want on the field if there's going to be a risk of the virus being on the same field. If they don't have to be on the field, if they don't have to be on the sideline, if they don't have to be in the locker room, I don't want them there. Scott comes in. Hey, the numbers are the numbers, man. That's all I'm going to say. The numbers are the numbers, okay? I'm not making the rules. We just have to figure out how to move on with the rules are being made. So that's what we're going to do. Hurts rookies and free agents. However, I would be surprised an extended practice squad won't be. Extended practice squad, extended preseason roster of some sort, right? Because again, we don't want to see our starters out there. The NFL doesn't want to see the starters out there. Why are there so many rules that protect the quarterback? Because the ratings show when the best quarterbacks are on the field, we get the top ratings. Whether you like it or not, whether you like those Clay Matthews roughing the passer penalties from a few years ago or not, ratings prove that when the best quarterbacks are on the field, those are the best ratings. No matter how much you hate the new rules, no matter how much you hate the softness of the NFL or the softness of this country, according to some, those are the truths. We need the vaccine. Sad thing is, if you know anything about vaccines, if you know anything about medicine, the moment we find a vaccine, that's not when you and I receive the vaccine, right? It has to go through all this testing. So even if doctors find the vaccine tomorrow, we have to wait almost a full year until the vaccine becomes mass produced for the public, right? And I think that when we do find a vaccine, we'll find a way to make that process a little bit faster, but it also could make that process a little more dangerous, right? Those safety steps that are taken. So this isn't going away anytime soon, right? This is the most on this channel I've talked about the virus that's going around because I just don't want to, because it's part of our everyday lives. And I want you guys to come on here and enjoy the time that we have on here together and not think about things that might be going on outside in the outside world. Let's talk about our Buffalo Bills. Let's talk about Buffalo sports. Let's talk about things that we love. And let me tell you something about this virus. I don't love it. I don't love it even one bit. I don't. I was joking at work. I keep saying, they say don't knock it till you try it. Well, we've tried the pandemic. It sucks. I'm knocking it. Let's go back to before that. Let's not have this anymore. So yeah, that's kind of my running joke. You go ahead. I'm not taking anything. And that's another question, right? I mean, how many people don't get the flu shot every year? There's a flu shot every year. And how many people say, nope, I don't need it? That's just the way it is. That's just the way things are. People don't feel comfortable sticking things in their bodies that they necessarily don't know what they are. They'll take their chances. And fortunately or unfortunately for them, sometimes it doesn't pan out the way you want it to. But that's life. That's life. Sometimes things don't pan out the way you want to. I mean, there's a vaccine for the flu and 50,000 people die from it every year. Great. There's a flu shot. And still, people die from it. So that's a problem that we have in this country. But again, how long has the flu been around? But there's just a lot going on. But who does this really help for the Buffalo Bills? Who does this really help? Who does this really hurt? Well, really, to me, it doesn't really help anybody yet until the NFL figures out what they're going to do with these roster sizes, right? I think the people that this helps out are the shoo-ins, right? The guys that we know are going to make this team. You're going to talk about the Josh Allens of the team, right? You're going to talk about the John Browns of the team. You're going to talk about the Stephon Diggs of the team. Because remember, guys, we still have training camp, right? Training camp is still scheduled. So Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs can definitely get some reps in there. Now, there's nothing that can substitute for an actual game. However, that includes preseason. right? A preseason game and a real game are two totally different things. Preseason, I just call it a real game. A preseason game and a regular season game, two totally different things, two totally different speeds of the game. So you're going to see a lot of those guys sit out. But I do think one guy in particular who's going to make this roster, who this doesn't help out, is Zach Moss, right? Zach Moss needs, and he's going to make this team. He's going to make this team, but he needs to be able to get on the field. He needs to be able to take some hits. He needs to be able to get in there with Josh Allen, with this offensive line. And again, the Buffalo Bills really make out here when it comes to the offensive line. We rebuilt our whole offensive line last season. They've had a whole year together now. They might not see any playing time at all in the preseason. At all, you know? And I'm talking literally 0%, because you talk about Mitch Morse having injury issues anyway, and you talk about some of the other guys, it's just 0% chance or that the offensive line all play together at the same time at any point in the preseason. Now, I don't believe I'm trying to follow along with the chat, but it's just going too crazy. I do not believe, I don't even know where I was going. I lost my train of thought. You guys are killing it on the chat. I appreciate it. But I just don't know how much this helps anybody at this point. Again, I think it hurts Zach Moss to an extent. I don't believe that this hurts AJ Epineza as much at the defensive end position. I think that you can get enough reps in training camp that are going to help you out as the season gets started. And we have to remember something also. Each team has to deal with these same adversities, right? So when we play the New Jersey Jets week 1, it's not like the New Jersey Jets were out there together and they had 3 or 4 preseason games and we only had the 2. So I think you might see some sloppy play, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And that's something that's normally the case anyhow, right? Normally an offense has to take some time to get together, to get everything clicking on the same page. And that might be even more so this year, right? A defense normally starts off with the advantage. I don't know why personally. I think offense versus defense. If you put the best offense versus the best defense, the best offense should always win because they know what they're doing. They know where they're going by that. That's what I mean. Like, they know the routes they're running. The defense doesn't. So the best offense should always be a good defense. But that doesn't always appear to be the case, especially early on in the season. You see a lot of low-scoring games early on in the season. You see a lot of upsets early on in the season because teams have not quite clicked on offense yet, still getting things going. I think that's definitely going to be an issue this season as we get ready. Now, luckily for the Bills, we play the Jets and Dolphins, 2 teams I think we can easily defeat to start 2-0. Let me know what you think in the comment section. We're talking about the 5 linemen on the field at the same time. Thanks, Piano. Yeah, I just don't know if we're going to see them at all on the field at the same time. I really don't. I think that if we do, it's for a quarter in the second game, right? Maybe a quarter, maybe just a drive or 2. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Josh Allen play at all in the preseason. And because you talk about players that this could hurt, it could easily hurt the undrafted free agents. It could easily hurt some of the guys that we picked up in free agency. These are the guys that could hurt a lot, especially when we talk about special teams. Special teams be hurt big time by this because you want to see some of these guys rotating at special teams, right? Duke Williams, Christian Wade, 2 good examples of this, of guys who I'm not sure are going to make a 53-man roster. If they do, it's going to be special teams. Well, if you're trying to get different guys out there, they might not get the opportunities that they once would have if we had a four-game preseason. But this is what people have asked for a long time. 2 preseason games. Okay, well, here we are. We have it. Let's see how it affects everything else. If it doesn't have an effect, great. I'm all for sticking with 2 preseason games, especially going into, next year when we talk about a 17th regular season game. We've been talking about this for a while anyway, so let's make it happen. And again, especially if this year goes well with the 2 preseason games, I think owners will realize, hey, this is the best way to go anyway, so we'll keep doing it that way. Scott Blakely, thank you for the $4.99 super chat donation. Again, guys, if I'm not getting to a comment or there's something you want to say, make sure I read it. Super chats do get priority, and all of my received from the super chats goes back into the channel, so I do appreciate it. Scott Blakely comes in and says, most likely daily temperature checks and weekly testing mandatory for all players. Rookies will be protected this year, in my opinion. And again, thank you for the $4.99 donation. As someone who likes to gamble, casinos are beginning to open up, and they have heat index checks at the entrance of the casino. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see that at NFL stadiums, right? Something that takes your temperature as you're walking through it, and so that way they don't necessarily have to take a temperature, like stand there with the player there. You can walk in, and then you'll know pretty much immediately if that person's running hot or cold, or if there's something that needs to be checked. Technology is amazing these days. Now, we've seen that isn't 100% accurate, but at the same time, technology is amazing. Yeah, I'm gonna be with you right there, Scott. There's gonna be a lot of daily checking on these players, but again, it's not like basketball, right? Basketball is gonna have the luxury of saying, hey, we don't need to check these guys every day. They're gonna check them when they enter the bubble, and then they're only going to check them periodically after that. And so it really helps them out. But the NFL has yet to talk about going into a bubble. Again, they talked about possibly making fans sign waivers. I agree with Scott that says, there won't be fans this year in the crowds, in the stadiums. But again, that just means you can join me right here on Billievers Talk. Again, Scott, thank you for the $4.99 donation. Buff Hub comes in here. And again, guys, if you haven't already checked out Buff Hub on podcast, make sure you check them out. Great podcast. Just was on there last week or something like that. Great time with him, Steve, so make sure you check him out. I wonder how much of an impact Matakovic will have. I think when we picked him up from the Steelers, I loved it. If you look at his special teams resume, he's obviously going to make this team. And that might be another guy that you don't see play all that much, because his biggest contribution is going to be on special teams, right? So where he's going to fit. He's not going to be a linebacker too often. And if he is, that's because we have lack of depth at the linebacker position. So we really hope, or at least injuries at the linebacker position. So you really hope you don't see him all too much at the linebacker position. You know where he's good at. You talk about 2 blocked punts last season. You talk about a guy who can make a difference on special teams, which is something the Bills need. The Bills need someone who can make a difference on special teams, because our special teams 2 years ago was absolutely atrocious. Last year, not too much better, right? So we're going to see what happens. What I expect to see, especially in preseason, look at your position battles, right? Where are your position battles coming from? Rich G comes in with the $10 donation. Thank you, Rich. Glad I finally caught the show live. I always enjoy when you guys are on here. Listen to that last 3 or 4 in a row. What's up, Joe, and everyone in Bills Mafia? Hit that like button. Thank you very much, Rich. Let's go, Buffalo. Hey, they might not be allowing us in the stadium. That doesn't mean we can't have some love right here on Believers Talk. Again, I'll be doing the live streams. You know how we did last year. #SportsBelieversTalk. Teamed up to give you guys every single live play-by-play reaction, so you guys can join the conversation that way as well. Rich, thank you so much for that $10.99 donation. Means a lot to me. Helps keep this channel going. And you guys all know how much you all mean to me. I love this family. I love the Bills Mafia, and I just want to keep this thing going. But we were talking about the Buff Hub's comment about Matakovic. Vegas will be dangerous for you. Vegas is always dangerous for me, man. Vegas is always dangerous for me. But yes, special teams will be a big deal this year. You talk about field position. You talk about going back and forth. I think special teams is always one of those things that's overlooked. I just talked about Marv Levy a couple of videos back when he talked about his Hall of Fame coaching career. And one thing he would always say is that offense sells tickets, defense wins championships. Or wins games, special teams wins championships. And I really that saying has always stuck with me. You need to win all 3 phases of the game in order to have a chance. And we saw that this past season. We saw this past season with the Kansas City Chiefs. They had a few kick returns or punt blocks in the playoffs that led to that Super Bowl run. Without that, who knows what happened. Remember that Houston Texans game? That game was crazy. Both teams had a kick return in that game. I think the Chiefs had a punt block in that game. A lot of things happened in that game on the special teams. So special teams always a big factor, and it can't be underestimated. Again, Thank you for the $10 donation, Rich G. Glad that you can join me. Don't feel bad when you miss out, man. I always enjoy having you here. Scott comes in. I work for one of the largest healthcare networks in upstate New York and been handling COVID specimens 6 days a week for 3 straight months and haven't gotten it. Protect the elderly, open up the country, says Scott. And again, that's just one person's opinion. Obviously, this country is split in half on opinions as far as what's best, what's worst. Again, that's not for me to say. I am not here to talk politics. I'm not here to talk, and it's a shame for me to say that. And one thing I've said on this channel, and one thing that annoys me more than anything, and it goes on with a bunch of things in life, even before COVID, is we're talking about life and death of a human being, and yet we make it political. And I just don't think that's okay. I don't think that's right. I feel like people's lives should be taken more seriously than the NFL, than politics, and yet they're not. They're just not, right? And we see it time and time again, and it's not just COVID. It's been happening since I've been alive and probably longer. So that's what I have to say. That's my political speech for the day. That's all I want to talk about. But yeah, we talk about people that this would help in the preseason, people this would hurt. We did see that there will not be tailgating in upstate New York as long as COVID is a thing. And as Scott alluded to earlier, COVID's not going anywhere. Whether we want it to or not, these overreactions or underreactions or just the reactions overall are going to keep happening. And so these decisions are going to continue to be made. Whether we like them or not, they're going to continue to be made. I'm just hoping there is an NFL season. That's all I'm hoping for at this point. People over profit, says CR. Absolutely agree. Unfortunately, the country doesn't feel that way. Daniel's coming in. How you doing, Daniel? Good to see you in the live stream. Amy, glad to see you in here. You don't have to apologize for being late. Glad you can make it. You haven't missed too much. Again, this live stream, I've talked more about the virus than I've ever wanted to on this channel, just because, again, I want to talk about our Buffalo Bills. But there's been a lot of news regarding our Buffalo Bills that surround around some of the results of this virus. And so to see that, CR comes in, go Bills. Again, thank you all for the comments. One thing I did also want to talk about is no tailgating. And again, if there's no one in the stands, it kind of makes sense there'd be no tailgating. And I feel like we'll see fans in the stands before they bring back the tailgating atmosphere. And this will also give the Buffalo Bills ownership a chance to see what the experience is like without a tailgate. Because again, Buffalo Bills ownership is looking at where to place a new stadium. And most of the places that would be good for a new stadium are not ideal for good tailgating. If you think about some of the places in downtown Buffalo, you think about some of the other places that are being looked at for a new stadium. Again, use this for informational purposes, right? Don't just sit back and see what's going on and say, oh, well, nothing we can do, let's move on. No, you can use this to your advantage, okay? It's not a good situation. We hate it. We all hate it, okay? But you can use it to your advantage. Figure out some things that you need to figure out before. Find out that, hey, only having 2 preseason games, not that bad. Maybe instead of 4 quarter-filled stadiums, you have 2 half-filled stadiums, and the money actually doesn't work out to be that bad either once fans are allowed back in the stands. Rep Home Alone. Drop a like, you filthy animals. Well, I don't have a Tommy gun. I don't have a Tommy gun to threaten you guys with, or else I would. But I don't have one. I don't know where it's at. I haven't seen you in nearly 2 minutes. You guys was there. I know Dan Mitchell was live earlier. I think Buffalo Fanatics goes live around 9 o'clock too. So I hope you guys enjoyed the live streams. I know that Dan is celebrating his birthday. Probably as we speak, probably if he tuned into the stream right now, probably won't understand a word I'm saying just because he might have had 1 or 2 already. And that's even after the live stream. So, but when Dan watches this, happy birthday, Dan. Glad that you made it 1 more year. Unfortunately, this year has not been the best, but there's still about half of 2020 left to go, and then 2021 cannot get here soon enough. Other than that, guys, there's not much to talk about, unfortunately. Again, we talked about the NFL saying that fans might have to sign waivers. I do wonder who will sign waivers. I think there's plenty of people that will sign waivers. And then we talk again about Buffalo not being able to have fans in the stands. Again, if you're a fan of just football, watch these other sports Dan is hilarious. He absolutely is. Buffalo Fanatics was live earlier, and I flowed back and forth between the two while I'm out doing band stuff. Hey, Elliot, keep doing your thing, man. Buffalo Fanatics had Reed Ferguson on. That's awesome. Big fan of Reed Ferguson, obviously. Long snapper for the Buffalo Bills. The only guy that's been here since well, not the only guy, Jerry Hughes as well, but one of a few guys who have been here pre-Coach McDermott. So you gotta give him props for that. Buff Hub comes in and asks, "Will we trade Jack Eichel?" I would send this that waiver, says Elliot, and that's something that people have to ask, right? Elliot, you live down, I believe, in Florida, if I'm not mistaken. We don't make it down to Florida this year, except for Miami games. So again, it'll be interesting to see what happens. What happens with the Buffalo Bills, or what happens with any team when it comes to these waivers. Buff Hub brings up a sore topic, thanks, but asks if we will trade Jack Eichel, and that's a question that are on a lot of Buffalo Sabres minds, is will that ever happen? Will we trade Jack Eichel? Listen, if Jack Eichel demands a trade, I mean, there's only so far we can go. I do not have a single issue with Jack Eichel if he demands a trade. With what's going on in Buffalo, I don't see an issue with it. And I've been on Buff Hub. I've said this on there. I've said it on this channel. The Buffalo Sabres will not win, again, consistently, as long as their president is also part owner of the team. And as long as their president is also the wife of the other part owner of the team. So I don't think that's changing anytime soon. I do not think Kim Pegula will step down as president of the Buffalo Sabres anytime soon. But I'm telling you this, they're not going to win until we do. And that's a problem. That's a problem the Sabres have right now. We're sinking ship, and no one's there to plug the holes. No one's there to plug the holes. And I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that, next season we start turning things around, because we have seen signs of hope, right? The last 2 seasons ago, we went on a 10-game winning streak. Last year, we started the season 8-2. I mean, we seem to have stretches where we do well, but then all of a sudden the reality sinks in, and it just can't. We can't withhold it. We can't withstand it. But as far as trading Jack Eichel, the Sabres will be dumb to initiate any type of trade for Jack Eichel. It'd be the dumbest thing they've done since hiring Kim Pegula as president. But again, if Jack Eichel demands a trade and you're not getting 100% out of your superstar, then at some point you do have to consider it. Some more comments going through here. Damage was probably hammered by now, absolutely. Rich G says the rules could change too as things unfold. Hopefully change it. I hope this thing starts changing in a good way. Absolutely. Amy, love your channel, Buff Hub. Yeah, great channel there. So guys, make sure you join, subscribe to them if you haven't already. We will be in Florida in the Super Bowl, says Elliot. And I have thought about that. Wouldn't it be great for the NFL if the first time you allow 100% of fans back in the stands is for the first week of playoffs, right? That playoff week, that'll be in January of 2022. Like, just make that the goal. Make that the start date. Say, hey, you make the playoffs. Not only is your team in the playoffs, but hey, you get to come watch them too. I think that people will be knocking down the doors to get tickets. Ticket prices could go through the roof if that were to happen, and I think that would be a huge sell for the NFL. I really do. And maybe that's something to look at. Maybe we just need to scrap some things and be honest with ourselves and say, hey, this isn't going the way we want it to. The Sabres are wasting Jack Eichel. I'm sad to say they are. You're absolutely right, and I hate it because he's such a great talent. If he does go somewhere else other than Boston and maybe Toronto, and Pittsburgh, I'll be cheering for him to succeed. But there are a few teams in there that I just can't cheer for. When Lindy Ruff went to Dallas, that was a tough pill to swallow just because of the Dallas Stars in the Stanley Cup. Just 96, only a few years ago. But that was a tough pill to swallow. But again, I would probably cheer for Jack Eichel for most teams. Go out west. Go to Dallas. Go to the Ducks. Go to the Knights. I don't care. Go somewhere where I could cheer for you, because I would definitely cheer for him if he does that. In St. Pete right now, I can't wait to see the Bills Mafia down here for the Super Bowl, says Rich G. It would be an absolute party. It would be an absolute party, and I hope that happens. I'm in St. Pete last week playing music. Elliot's always on the road, so I'm glad that they're opening back up so you can do that again. But yeah, unfortunately, guys, again, not so much good news yet. There's not as much good news as we were hoping for. Whether you agree with it or not, whether you agree with everything that's going on or not, That's not important because we're not the decision makers. Unfortunately, we're not our time. Our time to decide is on election day. So there you go. Go vote. I hate every Boston team. Yeah, I can't. Uh, the only one that I'm 50-50 on is the Red Sox. But now that they've won a couple World Series, yeah, I'll throw them in the hate mix too. But yeah, there's not a single Boston team I like, not a single one, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But guys, thank you for joining me on this edition of Believers Talk. Was happy to go live with you this week again. Missed out last week. Was live on Tuesday. We didn't even talk about Cam Newton in the stream. We had you covered on Tuesday with the Cam Newton conversation. Again, I do believe that the Bills are still the favorites to win the AFC East. Elliot, you know you and I talk gambling every once in a while. And Buff Hub, I know you're in here from Vegas, so you know that I'm so happy that Vegas is going to give me more money when the Buffalo Bills win the AFC East now, right? I hope that everyone signs everybody that makes the Bills look worse, so that way I can just keep putting money on the Buffalo Bills and winning some money. Because again, as I ranted about on Tuesday, this is great for the Buffalo Bills. Everyone now looking past them and saying, oh, they can't beat Cam Newton and the New England Patriots. Cam Newton and the New England Patriots, and I just think that that's going to light a fire under the Buffalo Bills, and I think that's going to just help the Buffalo Bills continue to succeed and move forward with their progress. We talk about some teams make the playoffs one year, take a step back. And maybe the Bills were in jeopardy of that, right? Because everyone was considering them the favorites to overtake New England. But now with everything going on with Cam Newton, they're like, hey, wait a second. I thought weren't we the favorites? But you said a guy who's been injured for a year and a half, hasn't taken a snap really, and oh yeah, by the way, isn't exactly Tom Brady. Isn't exactly the same quarterback style that Tom Brady brought to the team. And again, I just question Josh McDaniels if he can handle Cam Newton's skill set, because again, other than Tom Brady, Josh McDaniels has not exactly had luck with quarterbacks, right? Kyle Orton in Denver, not too good. Sam Bradford in St. Louis, not too good. So other than Tom Brady, there hasn't been success there. If you would have said the Red Sox were your favorite baseball team, I would have unsubscribed. Daniel says, no. No, it was definitely fun watching them beat the Yankees. I'll say that back in 2004 when they came back from that 3-0 deficit. That was fun. Okay, just because my dad's a Yankee fan, so I enjoyed busting his chops a little bit. I'm not a fan of the Yankees or the Red Sox. Actually, most recently, I'm a fan of whoever helps my fantasy team, because fantasy baseball is the only fantasy I do, and that's because there's no other reason why I would watch baseball. So I have to do something so that way baseball is at least somewhat interesting to me, and the only way to do that is put some money online and make sure I do make the right moves. So I did watch the Atlanta Braves a lot growing up. I have Atlanta Braves memorabilia. I am a Braves fan. You could say that. I do love Ronald Acuna. And things like that. Amy, I cannot show that. I apologize. I won't warn you or nothing, but I'm not gonna be able to show that. Oh, someone said I could. No, I can't. That's just not my cup of tea. But I agree with you. I agree. But that's just not my cup of tea. So yeah. So again, thank you guys for joining me on this edition of Believers Talk, this live stream on Thursday nights. Again, guys, join me every Thursday 9:30. If you're not subscribed to Believers Talk, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, and again, let me know what you think in the comment section. I always enjoy hearing from you guys. I thank you guys for joining me. Have a great night. Have a great 4th of July weekend, guys. 4th of July, be safe. Don't do anything stupid. The more people do stupid stuff, the longer we have to wait for football to allow fans back in the stands, right? So try not to do anything too stupid. I know that we want to get out there, enjoy ourselves a little bit, and do that, please, by all means. Be safe, be smart, have fun, but more importantly, support our Buffalo Bills. I look forward to talking to you all soon. Until I do, go Bills.